Okay, let's start this session. So, thank you everyone for joining us tonight. So, I would like to welcome each one of you for of our last event and the last installment of this year at Friends of Figma. So, before we start, I would like to acknowledge by the traditional owners of this land on which we are gathered today, the Wurundjeri Woi people of the Kulin Nation. I pay my respect to their elders past, present, and emerging, and extending that respect to any Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people who are joining us today. So, like, we have the agenda, right? So, what we are going through, like, few welcome notes in terms of introduction about the community, and that followed by the masterclass led by Scott, who is transforming career through ultimate career coaching as a side of his full-time role as a design management at Belong. And we at the end of the session we have a Q&A box where we you can drop your questions during the session, and which we will address that later on at the end of the session. So I have already know some of you from who are joining us today. But for those who don't know me, my name is Preet. I run Friends of Figma Melbourne from last 1 year, and as a profession, I'm a UX UI consultant. And we have a Perlogy who runs Friends of Figma Sydney, and also helping me to co-organizing events in Melbourne as well. So without any further ado, let's start with like what is this? What is Friends of Figma? So, for those who are joining us for the first time, we are a global community with the quest of generating the local impact. It is created for more than just the designers. It's mainly for the creatives, problem solvers, and the cross-functional product teams seeking the inspiration and growth. And through local meetups, online events, and community-led workshops, we offer a welcoming space to share the ideas, learn best practices, and build the connection that matters. And whether you are here like a deepen your skills or expand your network, this community is designed to support you in this inner journey in every step of the way. So before any further ado, I would like to welcome and call Scott to the stage and hear why you will going to enjoy this session. So he has been done the whole journey. Like he has been the nervous candidate, like all of us, and hoping to get the call back. And he has landed the amazing role in his career. And now he is literally the person who is actually deciding that who is going to get the interview at Belong as a design management. So it's like talking about this, seeing both the side of the coin, right? So let's dig in. Scott, over to you.
Hey, Preet, thank you so much. And thank you so much for everyone to join as well. I'm super excited to discuss this topic around the design hiring market at the moment and the situation that we all find ourselves in, and hopefully impart whatever little knowledge I have onto you all, so you can all get really amazing roles and go on to flourish in your careers. As Pre said, my name's Scott. I'm the product design manager at Belong. I've scaled a team from 4 people to 14 in 12 months. So it's hiring someone on average about every 6 weeks. So I really fundamentally understand what's happening in the design hiring market at the moment. I know how recruiters and hiring managers are assessing your portfolios, assessing your resumes, how they're using things like applicant tracking systems and AI to filter out candidates and rank candidates. And I want to provide a bit of transparency to everyone on the call. I've also helped more than 200 people get interviews and job offers in this brutal market. So I think I'm somewhat uniquely qualified to talk about this today, to give a little bit of advice. But I will caveat, everything that I say today is kind of just like my opinion. It's not the stance of Belong or Telstra, and your mileage may vary. Every recruiter, every hiring manager is slightly different. But from what I've found, the kind of common bits of advice I'll give today should help you in your career. So let's look at a bit of a macro view of the design job market, and maybe this isn't new to those of you on the call. But when I looked at these stats from Seek, this was quite eye-opening. The market is brutal. It is brutal at the moment, particularly for product design. We are getting record numbers of applications per role. So on the Seek platform, as an example, they receive on average 300 applications per role, but they have the fewest amount of design jobs advertised today at any other point in the last 10 years. And so there are fewer roles to go around, but there are significantly more people competing for those roles. So it's a very much an employer choice talent market. And it means like a lot of us are kind of competing against, other people that we wouldn't need to compete to in order to get a role. 5-10 years ago, if you were a designer, you could fall into a really well-paying role. Now, if you are incredibly skilled and incredibly connected, it's going to still be a little bit difficult to actually find a role that's going to fill up your cup and fulfills you. If you're a junior designer, say see a couple of people who graduated university, or maybe you're in like 1 to 2 or the first 3 years of your career, it's especially hard because a lot of the roles that are being advertised are at that kind of senior level, not necessarily at a junior level. But what should you be focusing on? Like if you are actively looking in the market, or even if you're not actively looking, like let's say you're quite happy in the role that you have, but you're always open to other opportunities. So you want people to tap you on the shoulder and be like, hey, we have this opportunity. We'd love for you to interview, or would love to jump on a call to see whether or not it's going to be a mutual fit. This is where you should be focusing your time. If you're a junior to a midweight designer, your portfolio matters more than your resume when you're either cold applying for roles or you're getting referred into companies for a particular role. That's because as a junior or a midweight designer, you probably don't have like a whole lot of experience. You're not going to have a really robust resume on average. And so you're primarily going to be assessed by your actual craft, so your design skills. And your portfolio is the way for you to demonstrate your practical design skills and to demonstrate the craft that you have. To give you an example, a colleague of mine was recently recruiting for a midweight designer role, and she received over 750 applications. It is nigh impossible to review 750 resumes and 750 portfolios. So she just went straight to the portfolio and judged people based on their craft and their skill, and then shortlisted people down from that. So your portfolio is incredibly important. That doesn't mean you don't try to optimize your resume and have a really good resume that's scannable, that's readable, and that's impact-led. But if you think about what resume template should I use, or what should I include in my resume, those aren't necessarily questions you should be focusing on. You should be focusing on how to optimize your portfolio to really showcase your craft. If you're a senior designer moving into like that director level position, whether that is like a people leader position, like a product design manager or a director position, or you're more leading into a high level individual contributor role, so like a staff or a principal product designer, then your resume and your portfolio has equal weight. The reason being is that no matter what level you're at, craft is going to be key. Your ability to showcase design and your design skill is constant. But as you start to move up the ranks and you're given more responsibility, you're also expected to make more of an impact with your role. And the resume is a really great place to start to showcase that impact, showcase the scope of the things that you worked on, and to showcase your leadership/ownership skills. When it comes to like applications, your resume is going to be looked at first by predominantly a non-specific talent acquisition or recruiter. So someone who isn't specifically like a design recruiter, if you're going for those senior and director level positions. And so you need to ensure that your resume gets you in the door, or essentially gets your resume shortlisted, or your application is shortlisted, because then the hiring manager is going to determine who to interview from that shortlist based on your portfolio. So you're writing the resume for the talent acquisition person, but you're making sure that you're still demonstrating your craft and your skill through the portfolio for the hiring manager. So if you're looking at getting a senior position or leveling up in your career, and you want anywhere from like a senior, a lead, a staff, a principal, product design manager, product design director, equal weight on your resume and your portfolio. But the thing that underpins everything is craft. 5 to 10 years ago, you could get away with not having really good craft or design craft, and you could make a very good living as a designer because maybe you're doing strategy or you're doing information architecture. A lot of that is now being commoditized, and the design skill, so the actual craft, and when I say craft, that has twofold. That is like your visual design skill and also your pure play UX skills. Those remain your differentiator. So those are the things that are going to put you head and shoulders above other people. So what is craft? It is the application of your design thinking. It is the output of your design thinking skills. It's everything from like hierarchy. It is considered motion design and your micro interactions that you are creating. It is the way things look and it was the way things feel. So there's two ends to it. It's not only the UX, it's also the UI. You put those two things together and you're showcasing your product design skills. Before, you could showcase some of your craft through a static portfolio or some static screenshots. But now, as design starts to get more and more commoditized, as more and more people start to try to become designers, you need to be able to differentiate your craft. And one way you can do that is by showcasing your micro interaction and motion design skills. Now, that doesn't mean you need to go out and learn something like After Effects. It just means that when we're thinking about a user journey or a user flow, if you are able to showcase and to think about how someone moves from like step to step or screen to screen, or how information is progressively disclosed, and you're able to consider and design for those micro interactions, that shows a really good depth of craft. One way in which you can start to showcase these things in your portfolio, and I'll go through a few more examples shortly, is you can just take some like video recordings of prototypes that you're building in Figma. So let's assume in your current portfolio you have 3 screens to show 3 steps in a flow. Create a Figma prototype that walks someone through those 3 screens. What the hover states are for any buttons, what the selected states are for any buttons, what are the screen transitions. Create a QuickTime recording. If you've got a Mac, it's free, and then put that video on your portfolio. And actually, someone who does this pretty well is in the chat. Their attendee. So Dottie Lee, when you joined, I looked at your portfolio, and your portfolio is pretty good. So if you go to Dottie Lee's website and you look at their portfolio, you'll see that some of their case studies, they have a few videos actually showcasing the interaction design of what they've designed. And if you do that, it's a really good way to showcase your craft. Again, you don't need to go out and learn After Effects. You can create a Figma prototype. You can even recreate a lot of this motion design in Jitter, which is really, really easy to learn. There's a Figma plugin for Jitter. You can even pay for some AI plugins like Magic Animate in Figma, or just take your designs into Figma Make and build in some interactivity, and then record your screen, put those in your portfolio. The reason for this, and I keep touching on this point, is that design is commoditized. I was able to use like Google AI Studio and the Gemini 3 model to one-shot a React animation web app that has better design craft than probably 50% of the designers who I interview from a single prompt. So the access to good design is being democratized. More people are becoming really good at design. And so these micro interactions, little micro like motion design, these are the things that are really considered. And these are a really good way to demonstrate your craft. And I think are a really good example and explicit examples of what hiring managers mean by craft. This is another good example. This is from someone in the United States. This is the product design intern at LinkedIn who was building a job tracking. Dottie, I just searched for your name on Google when you joined and found your portfolio. Like this what you're seeing here, this video, is from a product design intern at LinkedIn. This was a concept for a job application tracker. You go to their portfolio, which is a URL just there, and it looks like what they've done is just create like a really basic Figma prototype, opened up QuickTime, recorded them stepping through it. So you can see these, micro interactions are fairly basic. They're show and hide, they're on click, and then use something like Screen Studio to make the video look professional. They've uploaded that to their portfolio, and now the hiring manager, as a hiring manager, when I'm looking at this person's portfolio, I get to understand how they think when it comes to those micro interactions, how they think when it comes to the craft. They're not thinking about design as a static experience. They're thinking about it as an interactive experience. And for far too long, things like portfolios and case studies, presentations have been static, but people don't experience the web in a static way. They experience it in an interactive way. So you need to showcase that you're designing for interactivity. So this was just a good example to say you don't have to go too crazy. Something as simple like this will help differentiate you in a really, really crowded market. So let's get deep into the portfolio. So if you're a junior to mid-weight designer, the portfolio is going to be the main thing that helps you get a role. You're a senior designer, it's on equal weight to your resume, but how do you craft a really strong a really strong portfolio that helps you stand out from other people? There are three things you can do. Firstly, your portfolio is not the same as a case study presentation. So if we think about those stats from Seek, if I go out right now and recruit for a mid-weight product designer, I'm going to get at least 350 people apply. I'm not going to have time, and my team who help me with recruitment are not going to have time to review and actually consume every single word of your portfolio and the case studies within your portfolio. Portfolios are now moving away from being end-to-end case studies to being more showcases. So giving someone a flavor of what your project was or what your design was, just to demonstrate that you have the craft to be good at the role. And then your case study presentation is where you go into a lot of depth. So you need to make your case studies on your portfolio site really easy to scan, and they need to be memorable. The way that you do that is by demonstrating quantifiable outcomes. Now, this might be hard if you are a junior or a midweight designer, but what sets people apart, and the reason why companies have design orgs, is to drive a commercial outcome. So how did a design that you worked on, that you drove, that you led, that you contributed to, how did that achieve a commercial outcome? A commercial outcome might be an increase in revenue, a reduction in churn, an increase in conversion rate, a reduction in time to value if you're working on a SaaS product. If you don't know what those things are, if you don't know the business impact or the quantifiable impact of the work that you've done, you need to ask someone. I was a management consultant for about 4 years. So if you work in design consulting, you'll be brought in to an organization, you do a project for 12 weeks, you go away, someone else builds it, someone else implements it. So you actually don't know, what the impact was. It's really important to build strong connections with the people that you work with, whether you're in a consulting firm, an agency, or like in-house. And when something goes live, you should be looping back with those people to say, hey, the thing that we designed, the thing we built, what was the outcome? Like, what metric did that move? The reason why that's really important is for the 350 people who apply for a role, I can guarantee that 350 people will be able to wireframe something. 350 people will be able to do some level of baseline design. 350 people will not be able to move a commercial outcome with their design. And companies are looking for people who can not only do the work, they're looking for people who can have an impact in their organization. If you don't have quantifiable outcomes, like commercial outcomes, Then you can start to look at design outcomes. These will be things like task success rates from usability testing. It might be task directness if you're doing something like card sorting or tree jacking. What are those design metrics that showcase what you designed or what you did was actually usable? And if you don't even have that, so you don't have commercial outcomes, you don't have design outcomes, talk to the scale of your output. Let's assume that you designed a tokenized design system in Figma. That's like a case study in your portfolio. And you did this as a product design intern, or you did this as part of an agency gig, and you don't know whether or not it was implemented. Then what you need to do is talk about the scale. So how many tokens were created? How many components did you create? How many designers did it roll out to and then used it? So if you say something like, I designed a tokenized design system in Figma, that's great. If you say I designed a tokenized design system in Figma with 20 components and up to 400 variants or props, then that changes the perception in the hiring manager's mind to be like, oh, actually, this person can really work with complicated design systems. Whereas that first person who just said that they created a tokenized design system in Figma, that's good, but I can pull one of those for free on the Figma community page. So it's really, really important you have these outcomes. An easy way to do that is to show before and after metrics. So particularly if you're doing like a redesign of a piece of work, what was the metric before? Let's assume it's conversion rate. You did your redesign, it got rebuilt, it got redeployed. What was the after metric? It's a really easy way to showcase your impact. This impact you should lead with. So when it comes to your portfolio case studies, the title should be something like, designed X leading to outcome, like redesigned an onboarding flow, increasing completion by 50%. That way, when people are looking at portfolios and they see increasing completion rate by 50%, that's going to act as a hook. A hiring manager will think, oh crap, actually this person can be pretty impactful. Let me review their portfolio in depth. The other thing your portfolio needs to show at a really, really high level and in a way that's scannable, the what, the why, and the outcome. So you need to set appropriate context for the what. So what you were doing, the why, like why were you doing this particular thing? Like why was this important to the business, to the client, to the agency, to the internship, and then what outcome it drove. So a good example might be something like, if you think about the what, the why, the outcome of that SaaS onboarding example, it might be what, I redesigned an onboarding flow, increasing completion rates by 50%. Why did I do that? Because onboarding was the biggest drop-off point after people installed the app. The outcome was more people were able to complete onboarding, and then therefore were able to purchase our products or seek help or whatever the case may be. What, why, outcome, super important. If your portfolio case studies don't mention the what, the why, the outcome, it's going to be very hard to differentiate yourself in a crowded market, because quantifiable outcomes, the what and the why, show your end-to-end product thinking, and we are moving quickly towards a product builder mentality, not just a product design mentality. Now let's talk about the resume. The point of a resume in the design world for any type of role is to get you the interview. Your resume does not get you the job. Your resume is not written for the hiring manager. Your resume is written for the talent acquisition specialist or the recruiter. I work for one of the largest companies in Australia. We use Workday as our applicant tracking system. If I put up a job tonight and we get 350 applicants, I'm probably only seeing 12 resumes, if that. We have a talent acquisition person or a recruiter who creates a shortlist based on criteria that I give them. When I look at someone's resume, I'm giving it a quick scan, maybe 30 seconds at most. Then I'm clicking on the portfolio link and I'm giving the portfolio 60 to 90 seconds. Like that is it. That's all you get in this type of market. and I'm generous as a hiring manager. So your resume needs to be scannable when it comes to a resume. The layout needs to be clean. If you are designing your resume with a custom Figma template that is 2 columns and it's got images everywhere and it's got bar graphs for skills in your photo, you're going to run into some issue when it comes to an applicant tracking system being able to capture all that data from your resume and pass it into its system. So the way that an applicant tracking system works is you submit a resume. It then uses AI to extract all the information from your resume and then puts it into the applicant tracking system. And the recruiter or the talent acquisition specialist reviews your application in the applicant tracking system first, flags you as shortlisted or not, and then compiles your resume for review and sends that to the hiring manager. If you're using a non-standard resume format, it might be difficult for the applicant tracking system to pass that data into the system. And so you might be uniquely qualified for the role, but if your data can't be passed, you're going to be assessed as not being a good fit. So you can create your resume using Figma. Just use a standard template that is a single column. It's like one big text box with different hierarchical font. Hierarchy is really important. We need to ensure that the resume is not difficult to read. The design of your resume is not really assessed, but it still needs to be legible. It needs to follow really good design principles. It needs to have good typography, good white space. It needs to be clean. It needs to have basic hierarchy. And just putting an A4 artboard on with one big text box and a couple of different text styles is really much all you need. So don't overdo the design. If your resume looks like one of those really crazy designs on Canva, it's actually harder for someone to read. Right? A single column, plain design is what people expect. And it's going to be easier for them to scan and actually understand your experience in 30 seconds rather than trying to interpret, like a bento box layout for a resume, as an example. Or if you have like a landscape resume, like that information is just not going to be read at all because it's going to completely screw up with all the formatting when it comes to passing that data in an applicant tracking system. So a simple resume that is outcome driven is all you need. It is going to be the best thing for your cold applications, and writing your resume for an unspecific or non-specific recruiter and talent acquisition specialist is what you need to do. So the way that you do that is you try to word your resume using layman terms. And an easy way to use layman terms is to look at the job description that you want to apply to, and you pull out keywords and phrases from that job description. And then all you need to do is just ensure that those keywords and phrases are referenced exactly in your resume. Because what's going to occur is that the talent acquisition specialist or the recruiter will have the job description up on one side, the hiring manager's criteria will also be there. They'll have your application as it looks like in the ATS, and they're just going to be pattern matching. I need someone with tokenized design system experience. Does the phrase tokenized design system appear in this resume? No, they don't have the experience. But you might have said that you build a complex component library, right? And that component library might be tokenized. So it's really, really important that you're using layman terms and that you're referencing keywords and phrases from the job ad in your resume. The way that you write each of your bullet points in your resume is exactly the same as the why outcome format you use in your portfolio. You just try to do it as concisely as possible. The reason why we need to do that in our resume is because we need to show that we have the skill that we need, which is the what. You know when to apply the skill, which is the why, and that you're so good at applying that skill that it drives an outcome. Because if a talent acquisition specialist or a recruiter or God forbid, a hiring manager sees something like, builds a tokenized design system in Figma, improving user experience by 10%, you're not going to get the role, because the what and the why, so the what there, which is building the tokenized design system, does not match the why or the outcome of improving user experience by 10%. Those two things are not congruent. So it shows to the hiring manager, or it doesn't give confidence to the hiring manager, the recruiter, the TA specialist, that you fundamentally understand the outcome that you're trying to drive, or that you are able to select the right method for a particular objective. Whereas if you were to say something like, build a tokenized design system in Figma to improve design to dev handover, increasing velocity by 10%, the what, the why, and the outcome are congruent. And then that shows the hiring manager, okay, this person kind of understands design ops. They understand what we need to do, or what someone needs to do to improve velocity. Let's get them in for an interview. It instills confidence that you are capable. So that's the resume strategy. Clean, simple, write it for the TA. How to stand out in a crowded market. So you've applied. 349 other people have applied. How do you stand out? I saw a post from the most senior recruiter at Shopify. So this person recruits for Shopify's internal design studio. And they said, like, if you're not within the first 50 to 100 applicants of a role, you're not going to be considered, which kind of blew my mind, right? That might not be applicable for every company that you apply to, but how do you stand out? Like, if you're not one of those first 50 or 100 people, how do you stand out? Or even if you are one of the first 100 people, how do you stand out? There was a really good series on Instagram that someone did in the UK. Her name is Joanna. She's from a page called Tech Talk UK. And what she did in this kind of brutal market is, whenever she went to apply for a role, she created like a 60-second Loom video. And it showed her resume. And you can do this with your portfolio. You create this kind of little video and you say to the hiring manager of the role that you want to apply to, hey, hiring manager, I'm Scott. I'm a product design manager who builds diverse and successful teams in the telco industry. Super interested in the role that you're recruiting for, the product design director role. I think I could be a good fit because I've done X, Y, and Z. You highlight things in your resume, or you go over, things in your portfolio. I've designed a tokenized design system in Figma. I've scaled a team, and I've done this. Would love a chance to chat about the role. And if you're not the right person, please feel free to forward this on to them. That's it. You then send that to them in a LinkedIn DM. Now, you might not be connected with that person, so you have to connect with them, but you should be able to add like a little personalized note with a link to the video. And all you're trying to do is stand out in a crowded, hiring market. It doesn't mean that someone's going to accept your connection request. It doesn't mean that someone is going to review your video or actually give you an interview. But what it will do is, if you are in the shortlist of resumes or on the shortlist of applications, and the hiring manager has seen your connection request but hasn't actioned it, when they see your name, they'll be like, oh, I think this person messaged me on LinkedIn, and they're going to subconsciously spend a little bit more time reviewing your portfolio and reviewing your resume, which is what we really want. Best case scenario, they go, awesome, yep, looks like you get some really great experience. I'll put you in touch with our TA person. Or, hey, here's my my calendar link. Feel free to book in a 15-minute chat and we can discuss the role. If you're not comfortable creating these little 60-second Loom videos, then don't. Just send the message to the hiring manager. I've got some templates that you can use. So like, if you can find me on LinkedIn with Scott Graham, just hit me up on LinkedIn, just shoot me a connection request, and I'll shoot you these messaging templates that you can use. But it's a really good way to stand out in the market. Joanna did this, so she applied, I think it was for 14 roles, And she got 10 interviews from those 14 roles because she sent these like 60-second videos going over her experience and was able to stand out. So I think that's a really, really good proof point. The other way to do that is to like network smartly. If you're just starting your career, you might not have a really big network. Networking can be a bit cringe. It can be a bit difficult. You don't necessarily need to attend, every single meetup or pay $700 for, a design conference ticket. You can attend virtual sessions like this, or what you can do is you can, look at the companies that you really want to work at, and you can go to LinkedIn and you can start to find like who the design manager is or the head of design is, who the talent acquisition or the recruiters are, and who are some of the people at like your peer level who work there, and you can just shoot them a message on LinkedIn. And the message that you send them isn't like, hey, I'd love to have a coffee chat. It's just, hey, big fan of what you're doing at, company name, would love to connect. Something as simple like that. And then you just talk to them like a person. Approach networking as if you're going to get nothing in return, as if it's non-reciprocal. Just have conversations with people, be engaged, be inquisitive, be nice, be human, and over time, you'll foster some really good connections. Let me give you an example of this. I connected with someone back in my consulting days. We worked on a very small project together. Kept in touch, would shoot a message every now and then. Hey, hope you're going well. Saw you started a new role. Congrats. Or love what you're doing at company name. Hope you're doing well. About 4 years later, that person then hit me up out of the blue and said, "Hey Scott, we're looking at recruiting for a particular role at this company. Would love for you to come in and meet with the hiring manager." That role was not advertised, and I was very lucky to actually be accepted and to get that role, and that role was quite life changing for my career. But that wouldn't have happened if I hadn't just like networked and kept in touch and just talked to this person like a human. If every time I talked to them, I was like, "Hey, like, do you have any jobs going?" Or "I'd really love to work at XYZ," you're going to be annoying. Like, people will think you're annoying and they're not going to engage with you. But if it's like, "Hey, Preet, like what you're doing as at your agency, hope all as well," or "Hey, really liked this post," or "Hey man, like I saw this person, build this AI thing, and I thought of you. I thought it might be interesting." That's how you network, just by having conversations with people. Personalize all your outreach messages, be engaged. It takes a bit of work, don't get me wrong. I put 30 minutes in the diary every month just to go through and talk to people that I really rate in my network to keep that connection strong. I'm not looking for anything from them. I just want to be engaged because it's going to pay dividends in the future. There's a really good saying that your net worth is your network. And I've only ever, out of the 4 jobs that I've had, I've only applied for one, and that was my graduate position. All the rest have come from my network and referrals. So take that as an example. I'm also the beneficiary of so much luck and privilege, I understand. But networking is highly, highly, highly important, and it's the biggest thing you can do to leverage your career. I highly, highly suggest you do it. If you struggle with networking, again, just contact me on LinkedIn. We can jump on a call. I will help you. I'm not trying to sell you anything. I'm not selling you career coaching or anything like that. Message me, say friends of Figma. I need a bit of help with my resume, my portfolio, with outreach. And I'll do my best to help you out, because it is a really high leverage skill to learn, and it can really, really help you in the long term. So I'm just conscious of time. I want to leave. I know we've got five questions, but I just want to talk to a couple of big takeaways. 2025, or the next 26 days or so, but 2026 is the year that will reward designers who can showcase and articulate craft, and impact. You have wicked craft, you're a cracked designer, and you can shift the needle commercially, you're going to be in demand. You're going to be head and shoulders above the sea of mediocrity that we have in the design world at the moment. Don't just focus on design. We are moving away from dedicated UX designers, dedicated UI designers, dedicated content designers, dedicated accessibility specialists. It's not 2012 anymore. We are moving towards a single product designer who can do everything end to end and who can demonstrate product thinking. You can demonstrate an ability to influence a product strategy based on your ability to understand user needs and to understand and articulate how design drives a commercial outcome. So demonstrate your impact, include metrics in as much work as possible. And if you don't know, you need to ask someone, you need to get these metrics. Portfolios will get you hired. As I said, resumes are somewhat important depending on your level, but the portfolio is where the decision gets made by the hiring manager. And actually, there's a guy that I know who runs a design agency who just posted for 2 roles, I think 2 weeks ago. And he said, I don't want to see your resume. Shoot me a link to your portfolio and a 60-second video explaining who you are and why you love design. And I'll assess your application from there. So we're even starting to see companies disregard the resume and only look at the portfolio. That's a one-off. That's an anecdotal piece of data, but I would focus 80% of your time polishing your resume and getting that up to scratch, and 20% of your time on your resume. And again, networking and personalization is the way that you stand out in a really, really crowded market. I guarantee if someone on this call messages me, connects with me, and in 3 years' time, I'm looking for a role, I might think, actually, you know what, Dottie, I really liked your portfolio. Hey, I've got this role available. Are you interested? Or if I see Dottie's, resume or portfolio, I might go, hey, that name's familiar. Maybe spend a bit more time reviewing it. It's the number one thing you can do to stand out, team. I really, really believe that. Hey, I've just spoken at you for 30 minutes. I appreciate your time. I appreciate you listening to me. I'm super keen to get into your questions as well.
Okay, so we have few questions in the Q&A box, and if any one of you didn't get a chance to ask any question, feel free to drop it inside the Q&A box that we have. Um, let's go to the first question. So it's from Fiona that, hey Scott, asking on behalf of a friend, what have you noticed with fellowship or graduate programs over the years? I have always advocated that those programs are sustainable and provides opportunity for mid-senior to mentor within a company.
I am the biggest fan of graduate programs. I am a beneficiary of a graduate program. I went through the graduate program at Deloitte. At the end of my degree, I applied for 14 grad programs, didn't get any at all. Extended my time at uni, started a Bachelor of Economics just so I could stay 1 more year and go through the application process again until I got a graduate position. I cannot advocate highly enough for those graduate positions. You are paired with a career buddy. That might be a mid or a senior designer. At my organization, it was a senior, and it was also like a partner, so someone at the head of level who guides you in the first 6, 12, 18 months of your career and provides you with a significant amount of structured training and development. If you can, I would prioritize those companies to try to apply to. However, the opportunity pool is narrowing for those graduate positions, unfortunately. One thing has killed the graduate position in this country, and that is something called the Scaled Agile Framework for Enterprise, SAFe. As more and more companies start to implement Agile, there is a greater and greater demand on people who can be embedded into a squad, into a product team, and have impact and deliver from day one. So it is easier and safer to hire a senior designer than it is to hire a senior and train a junior at the same time and wear that impact on your velocity. If you cannot find a graduate position, try to find a startup. You will learn so much that will be so incredibly beneficial for your career. You might not have that mentorship that you would have in a graduate position, but you'll be thrown in the deep end and you will develop so many cross-functional skills that will stay with you for the rest of your career. But I am a huge advocate for these graduate programs. They are going away. Try to apply for as many as possible. Take a scattergun approach. And if you're not successful in obtaining one, my advice, try to prioritize startups and get in and just put a whole bunch of sweat equity in them. Hopefully that answers your question. If you do find though that you can't get mentorship, so you go to a startup, you're not getting mentored, there are a whole bunch of other things you can do. There's like the ADP list, there's design buddies, there are the other mentorship avenues that you can explore. There are things like Friends of Figma, right, where you can make really great connections with people who I'm sure will be able to help you out as well. So a bit of a long answer for that one.
I hope that covers what you are looking for, Fiona. So Fiona again asked another question, which is in your years of hiring and helping designers get hired across consultancy, agency, or studio or enterprise, in terms of the rounds to getting hired, usually what is the estimated number based on those experience, junior, mid, senior, principal levels? And what are your thoughts with conducting case studies as part of the interviewing process?
Generally, there's like every place you go to will generally have around 3 rounds. It's going to be, and I'll exclude the recruiter call that you get for the initial interview format. Generally, your 3 rounds will be you'll have like a meet with someone within the organization. That could be a peer, that could be someone from another part of the org, just to understand what your experience is. Then there's generally a case study presentation that you do. And then the third round is either going to be the final culture fit hiring manager discussion, or it might be like an actual design challenge that you need to do. And then there's like a cultural fit after that. The baseline is 3, some go up to 4. Places like, I think like Atlassian technically have 3, but each stage has 2 sub stages. So it's like 6 stages in total. But generally, prep for, like a case study presentation, prep for a hiring manager / cultural fit interview, and prep for a more general, tell me about a time where behavioral type question round that may be with a designer or someone from another team. In terms of conducting case studies as part of the interview process, I am personally a huge fan, right? I do not like design challenges. The only design challenge I like is when you're embedded with a team for a full day, you're working with them, you have access to them, and you're also remunerated. One company does that. That's called Usability Hub, or it's now called Listener. They're really great at that. But barring a design challenge, I think a case study presentation is the best way to assess a designer's thinking and also how they present. Any designer, 50% of the job is going to be designing. Another 50 is going to be some form of stakeholder management. It's going to be presenting your ideas. It's going to be trying to gain buy-in for your designs. It's going to be articulating your decisions to stakeholders. And a case study interview is a really good way to demonstrate those skills and to assess those skills. If the case study presentation is something that you struggle with, you should prioritize improving it and practicing it, because it's a really valuable skill to have, and it's really valuable for the design hiring manager as well.
Okay. Then we have a question from Subinur. So, will the recruitment requirements of hiring manager be different from the public job description? Are there any highly competitive portfolio or resume cases to share? Thank you.
Not really. The recruitment requirements and like the recruitment requirements, so what's in a job description and what a hiring manager wants, is generally going to be the same thing, because generally the hiring manager is going to have input into the creation of the job description and the job ad as well. So there should be congruency between those two things. There shouldn't be a discrepancy. how they're assessed might be different. So how like a talent acquisition specialist or a recruiter assesses your match against those things may be different to how a hiring manager assesses it, which is why ensuring that your resume and in some form of your portfolio is speaking to or it's written in layman terms can really help with that. In terms of like highly competitive portfolio or resume cases to share, that really differs based on the level. The portfolio, so the video that was shared as an example of like motion design in a portfolio comes from a product design intern in the United States. It's not the best in the world, but I think it's actually pretty good. It's a pretty strong resume for a product design intern, and they do a lot of the things that I'm advocating for. So we can find that link and send it to you. Give me one sec. I'll put the link in the chat, and then you can take a look at that person's portfolio. As I said, it's not the best one in the world, but it gives you a good example of what you can try to aim for. I'll put that in
Are you
the chat.
are you talking about the Atlas?
That's correct. Yeah.
I already put it in the
Cool.
chat, and it's in the pinned. So anyone who wants to see, it's at the top of the chat, which is the portfolio example, which you
Yeah.
can see.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you, mate.
Okay. No worries. Okay, then we have a few more questions. We have few time, 5 more minutes to go. So the question is, will this video recording? Oh, that is good. Yes, Dian, I think I would like to answer that. So this video is going to be recorded, and we'll upload that later in our YouTube channel too, so anyone can have a look. Then the question is from Brian, which is being a graduate of what importance is a degree in the hiring process? What advice would you give to self-taught designers looking to get into the job market?
Very good question, Brian. A degree is always going to be seen as a good signaler in the market that you're able to commit to something. A degree is also going to be a requirement for 99% of the graduate roles that you will come across in the market. And so if you'd like to get into a graduate position at a large scale company, you're probably going to need a degree. It doesn't matter, like I got a degree in accounting and I'm a designer, and I started a degree in economics and I'm a designer. So the degree is like, it's neither here nor there. It's important to get your foot in the door for certain circumstances, but your actual design craft and skill is the thing that will help you in your career. If you're a self-taught designer, maybe you don't have a design degree or a degree at all, it has never been a better time. It's never been a better time than right now to showcase your craft, because 10, 15 years ago, maybe, the company that I was working for was only recruiting from a group of 8 university. Now we're kind of recruiting from any university, or even people who haven't gone to university but are really cracked designers. A really good example, there's someone called Patricia Tani on LinkedIn. I believe she's from somewhere in the US. She vibe coded a version of Figma that's like an IDE. So it ingests like your GitHub, creates a Figma version for it. You can just change the design of it, and it pushes it back to GitHub. I don't believe she has a design degree whatsoever. She got 1,000 signups for this thing. I think she just created like a video with it on using Jitter or just Figma Make. And now she's talking to like heads of design at Uber, Netflix, Lyft, Anthropic, like just purely by her craft and putting her craft out there. So I think if you're a self-taught designer looking to get into the job market, portfolio, sharing your design, sharing your cracked skills as a designer is a way to make yourself stand out, right? And a lot of the really new startups and some of these big companies like Eucalyptus, Atlassian, the big tech startups we have in Australia, and the scale-ups, I don't even know if some of them have a degree requirement anymore. So it's never been a better time, but it's also never been a worse time, because now the candidate pool is larger as well. So you need to cut through with your design skills and your craft.
Okay. Uh, I know we have a cut bit of time, but this question is really good, Scott. So this question is, are there any red flags that designers should be looking for when applying for jobs that others may not know about? Example, I have seen are like AI interviews, design challenges that are related to the company's problem, etc. Keen to get your thoughts.
Mm, red flags. I think like those things as an example, like AI interviews and design challenge writers at the company problem. I think they can be okay. I don't think they're like an immediate red flag. A red flag for me would be, you know, uh, a, a role that's looking for a junior designer that requires you to have expert knowledge in, front end frameworks in React and Tailwind, expects you to not only do the design but to build, but is paying you like 60 grand a year. That's it. That's a huge red flag. Anywhere, any job that says we work like a 996 schedule, big red flag. Um, any job where like the founder or the CEO has come out and said like work life balance isn't a real thing because your work should be your life. Huge red flag. If you see things like fast paced environment, take that as like unstructured, right? That could also be a potential red flag as well. But hey, I'm conscious of time. I know we have a few other ones left. Can I just like
Yeah,
rapid fire answer these ones? Is that right?
sure.
Cool. So, Kirk, what is your advice for anyone who is trying to transition into product designer role from another design role working full time? You, it, mate, it's difficult. It's going to be incredibly difficult. Best thing you can do is continue practicing your craft, continue practicing your skill, put your skill and your craft out there. Post on LinkedIn, post on X. X has a really good supportive design community, regardless of all the other nonsense that happens on there. Get yourself out there, showcase your skill, do your networking, do your outreach, and unfortunately, you're just going to have to grind and find the time to do it on top of your other role. There's no other, I don't want to BS you. That's just how it has to be. Sumi, for junior designers, what part of the skill display is more valued by employees or can make you stand out from others? You're just pure play to the craft skill. Basic things like, hierarchy, typography, layout, basic like interaction, design, color theory. That stuff will help you. That's kind of the minimum. The thing that will help you stand out is like micro interaction, your motion design, your consideration of a flow and not just, a single step on a single page. Dottie, thank you for comments about my portfolio. Should I use different strategies when presenting my portfolio and resume to a non-design manager, design lead, or general HR? Yes, what you talk about should be slightly different, and how you talk about that should be slightly different. If you're presenting the stuff to a design manager, go in depth, be complex, use terminology that a design manager would use. If you're presenting to general HR, maybe don't go to such depth, but just uh, explain what you did and why you did it, like you were explaining it to your grandma. That would be probably the best advice I can give. And I think those are all the answers.
Questions. Yeah. Thank you so much for addressing all those questions. And also, thank you so much for taking your time for us today and share your knowledge because I'm sure that people must have wrote down a lot of important points and the notes. And just in case if you have missed it, we will definitely upload this session to the YouTube channel where they will that you can go back and again take a note if you like. So yeah, I think that's about it. This year was a mark like a 1 year since we started Friends of Figma Melbourne, and we started this last year when in November when Figma launched their corporate office in Sydney, and it was so good to see the community response. And I can't thank enough of all of you who joined us in person the whole year, and also we are just getting started because also like amazing individuals who obtain to share that design wisdom like Scott today and there are other speakers who have joined us in the previous sessions because it's all about the community and that's what we are our best to bring it to the best and we are trying our best for bringing the value and the possible to the community through these gatherings and as Scott has mentioned in one of the few points that networking something is really important when it comes to like and it is more about the organic not just about like straight to the point, like looking for a job or something like that. But this community gatherings also will bring you to the inner contact with people who are coming from a different background, different seniority. So you will also learn from them. So that is why we have kept the multiple formats while organizing these events to make it more inclusive. So we have done like a few in-person events, few online one this year, and then make sure that anyone can attend from anywhere to make that 1% difference possible from our side. And we are just getting started. So what's next? We have quite a few things lined up for next year, 2024. We will definitely have 4 events a year, and then there will be a few workshops, cross collaboration, and more of the masterclass that we have it today. So yeah, exciting times ahead. If you would like to follow us, this will be the QR code. If you can share it with people, if you have been any of the in-person events or online one, just if you find it valuable, share it with your design team and ask them to join. And let's bring more value because nothing great can made alone, right? And if you're interested to give a talk or a host Fred Figma events at your venue, just scan this and fill the form, and we will get in touch with you guys after that. And after that, yeah, tell us about your feedback. What do you think about today's session? You want to know like from you how how effectively we can bring it more value to the community. So that's about it. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a great rest of the holiday season. Enjoy. See ya. Thank you.